No camera captured every word. No courtier dared repeat the full sentence afterward, but everyone seated inside the Windsor state dining room understood precisely what had just happened. Queen Camilla rose from her chair, looked directly across at Catherine, and made an accusation that no formal occasion was ever designed to hold. The Princess of Wales did not lower her eyes. She reached into her evening bag, unfolded a single card, placed it carefully beside her plate, and waited. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, subscribe so you don't miss a single update. The evening that broke the surface. Windsor state dinners are formal events meticulously organized down to every detail. The Lord Chamberlain's office confirms chair placements, entrance orders, and seating arrangements in writing weeks before any guest arrives. This precision serves a purpose beyond mere decoration. It is a public declaration. A state dinner communicates to visiting governments, senior diplomats, and international officials exactly who holds authority within the British royal household and in what order. On the evening of one such dinner, two official documents presented conflicting information regarding the same woman. Catherine and William entered the event composed and unhurried, using the entrance typically reserved for the principal royal couple. However, Camilla's household had received a different written order, indicating that the Queen and King were to lead from that same entrance first. The protocol office had failed to flag this conflict before distributing both sets of authorized instructions, and by the time the first course arrived, the underlying problem was already apparent. Camilla noticed the discrepancy before the soup was cleared. Instead of pulling Catherine aside, sending a quiet word through a nearby courtier, or waiting until after the final course to address the issue privately, Camilla placed her glass down with controlled movement, looked directly across the table at Catherine, and stated that her entrance had been incorrect. It was not a question or a quiet suggestion, but rather an accusation, delivered in a measured voice that was calm enough to maintain composure, but clear enough for senior officials seated nearby to hear. Catherine allowed a moment of silence to settle, letting everyone at the table fully absorb what had just been said before she responded. An apology was not forthcoming. Instead, she said she had followed the final written instructions delivered to her household that same afternoon, which bore the protocol office's approval mark. She had not chosen her entrance position independently. She had adhered strictly to what had been authorized. To emphasize her point, she reached into her evening bag, unfolded the instruction card, and placed it next to her plate. A senior courtier leaned in to examine the approval stamp, confirming that it bore a later authorization date than the version Camilla's team had received. Consequently, two separate documents, each carrying royal authority, had assigned different women to the same ceremonial entrance that evening. For a moment, Camilla's confidence visibly faltered. Charles looked down at the table, remaining silent. The king faced an untenable situation before diplomatic guests. Supporting his wife risked seeming partisan, while backing Catherine could undermine the current queen. His silence did nothing to resolve the tension or protect anyone involved. Catherine expressed regret that the dispute had reached the dinner table at all, but she did not apologize for following an authorized order. This distinction was crucial. An apology would have implied fault. Instead, she took a firm, polite position and maintained it throughout the interaction. Foreign guests would take those impressions back to their home countries, and courtiers would document their internal accounts. The image of the Princess of Wales presenting a folded card to defend her integrity before diplomatic witnesses would resonate far beyond what any palace statement could contain. As candles burned down and plates were cleared, the dinner eventually came to a close. However, the confrontation had already exceeded the confines of the room, with roots extending 6 weeks deeper than any guest at that table realized. The 6-week fuse. 6 weeks before the state dinner, Catherine arrived at a rehearsal for an investiture ceremony, expecting nothing out of the ordinary. An investiture is a formal royal occasion where the monarch honors individuals for their public service. Catherine had been asked to present a specific award alongside the king. The rehearsal was intended to be brief and procedural. However, someone had moved her floor marker. Palace planners had adjusted the standing positions at the last minute. Catherine's indicator, the small mark position indicating where she was to stand during the presentation, had been shifted closer to the king. The reason given was logistical. The revised placement allowed the award presentation to proceed without participants having to cross an awkward distance on the ceremonial floor. It was a practical adjustment that had not been communicated to Camilla. When the Queen entered the rehearsal space and saw Catherine's new position, she stopped. According to those present, Camilla addressed Catherine directly, clearly enough for nearby staff to hear, stating that Catherine appeared to be standing in the position she believed was assigned to her. The comment was made without raised voices or visible anger, although it didn't require either. In royal ceremonies, standing positions carry significance that outsiders often do not recognize. Being closer to the sovereign during a formal honor signifies trust, authority, and proximity to the crown. Even a small change in rehearsal placement can be interpreted, as this one was, as a deliberate signal of whose influence is most valued during formal occasions. Catherine immediately responded that she had not requested the change and offered to move. She did this quickly, hoping to prevent the situation from turning personal. The rehearsal coordinator declined her offer, explaining that the schedule was already running late and that the revised arrangement had been properly approved. Camilla perceived something in that refusal that Catherine had not meant to convey. If official palace planners were repositioning the future queen closer to the king without consulting the present queen, it suggested a shift in the household's understanding of precedence during formal occasions. Camilla's fear, though she refrained from expressing more in that rehearsal room, was that the change was not merely logistical, but rather directional. Catherine left the rehearsal feeling deeply unsettled. In a private conversation later recorded in a household account, she confided to William that she feared any duty she accepted would be interpreted as an attempt to take something that was not yet hers. The prince tried to reassure her, but he understood the issue at hand. If every ceremonial placement became a competition over floor positions, the family would struggle to work together without injecting suspicion into every arrangement. Charles learned about the exchange that same night. His response, according to an advisor who later documented the conversation, was that the tension would dissipate if no one gave it significance. He genuinely believed that refusing to choose sides was equivalent to maintaining peace. However, it was not. It was merely postponing a reckoning. Over the next 6 weeks, 2 competing household offices continued to make small decisions, each reflecting the tension the king had chosen not to address. Catherine's team received one version of the Windsor dinner instructions, while Camilla's team held on to an older version. A staff member in the protocol office noticed that both documents remained active simultaneously and chose not to reconcile them. This choice was not random. It reflected the fact that staff had begun taking sides without any instruction from those in authority to stop. The document that changed everything. Most royal confrontations can be managed. A poorly worded announcement can be corrected. A missed engagement can be explained away, and a private dispute between family members can be quietly contained before it reaches the public. However, a paper trail showing 2 contradictory instructions, both stamped with official palace authority, cannot be easily managed. That is precisely what Catherine placed on the Windsor table. To understand why a single folded card carried so much weight, it's important to grasp what royal instruction documents actually represent. These are not informal notes passed between assistants, formal instructions issued by the Lord Chamberlain's office, the senior royal department responsible for managing state ceremonies and controlling precedence at major events, carry a confirmed authorization mark. Disobeying an approved instruction can be treated as a breach of protocol, while following one should protect the holder from the kind of public accusations Catherine had just faced. Catherine had followed one instruction, Camilla had received another. The courtier who examined both documents at the table confirmed what the approval stamps already indicated. The version delivered to Catherine's household that afternoon had been revised and authorized after the version Camilla's team received. Thus, the Queen was working from an outdated document that should have been recalled and replaced, but no one ensured it was. This finding completely shifted the dynamic at the table. Camilla had entered the confrontation with absolute certainty, believing Catherine's actions were misguided, and the instructions she held seemed to validate her belief. However, the moment a senior courtier quietly confirmed that Catherine's document carried the later authorization mark, that certainty vanished. A more complicated reality replaced it, as the focus shifted from Catherine to the royal offices themselves regarding who had made the mistake. Someone had issued a revised instruction without withdrawing the original. This failure could not be attributed to a single oversight. It resulted from a breakdown in communication among competing offices, leaving both documents active at the same time. Later that night, Charles examined both documents in his private study. He came to terms with the fact that what he was looking at was not merely a clerical error, but evidence that the divided loyalties within his household had engineered a trap that ensnared two women in front of foreign guests. An internal review identified a household assistant linked to Camilla's office who received notification of the revised instruction but chose not to withdraw the earlier version. According to the recorded account, the decision stemmed not from hostility toward Catherine, but from a desire to protect the Queen. The assistant believed that the revision would reduce Camilla's precedence and hoped the original arrangement would prevail. Charles promptly removed the assistant from all formal duties. William's response was cold and measured. He told his father that punishing one employee would not address the fundamental issue. Staff had felt licensed to make such decisions because top officials in the household had failed to establish a clear line between where Camilla's authority ended and where Catherine's future role began. Protectiveness had filled the gap that direction should have occupied, the king who chose silence. Charles was aware of the tension between the two households. This was the part of the story that those closest to the situation found most difficult to reconcile. He had witnessed the investiture incident and had received the advisor's account of what transpired in the rehearsal room. For weeks, he knew that the two offices were operating without unified command. He hoped the situation would resolve itself before he was forced to take a side. However, hope is not a management strategy within a royal household. That night, William entered the private study and presented his case calmly. He did not raise his voice, but delivered each sentence with a thoughtfulness of a man who had carefully considered what needed to be said before stepping through the door. He informed his father that Catherine had been compelled to defend her honesty in front of foreign guests because the palace had failed to manage its own instructions, and this failure did not arise out of nowhere. It grew because no one with the authority to stop it had chosen to do so. Charles responded by showing his son the internal briefing prepared by the protocol secretary, which complicated matters further. The revised instruction that Catherine had received a later version with an updated authorization mark existed because Charles himself had requested the adjustment. He had wanted Catherine positioned closer to the younger visiting dignitaries to signal continuity and convey to the foreign delegation that the monarchy had a confident next generation ready to step forward. Instead, his own adjustment led to his wife's public embarrassment. Though the king had not created the conflicting document, the chain of events that produced it traced directly back to a decision he made and a correction he had never communicated to Camilla. William allowed that information to sink in. He did not absolve his father. While he recognized that the procedural failure was accidentally technical in origin, he was clear about where the real problem began. A staff member in Camilla's office felt justified in leaving the old document active because the royal household had never established a clear understanding of authority. Camilla's team operated defensively because no one in a position of authority had clearly defined what the Queen's role would look like once Catherine's responsibilities were more formally established. Protectiveness filled the space direction should have occupied, and it had been growing for months. Before morning, Charles ordered three things. 1. A formal investigation into the conflicting instructions. 2. The reassignment of the assistant involved away from ceremonial work. 3. Any major revision to formal instructions in the future would require written confirmation from both his household and William's team before being distributed. The third decision mattered most, not because it repaired the damage already done, but because it acknowledged what had caused the problem. Two competing offices had been functioning as separate entities within the same institution. No clear structure existed between them, and no defined line had been drawn. The king, who had the authority to establish that line, had spent months choosing neutrality instead. Neutrality within a family, preparing for generational succession, does not protect everyone equally. It benefits those who are comfortable with ambiguity, while leaving vulnerable those who need clear direction to perform their duties without being accused of overreach. Catherine had needed that clarity. Camilla needed it too. Neither woman received it. The outcome was a public confrontation at a formal state dinner, a card presented as evidence of good faith, and a king sitting alone after midnight, questioning when his silence had ceased to be caution and had become a decision. The room without rank. Catherine wrote a note by hand. She didn't have anyone help her or review it. She folded it and sent it directly to Camilla, asking for a private meeting without their husbands, staff, or courtiers who had been causing anxiety for months. Camilla could refuse the invitation. The note carried no obligation, expectation of an answer, or royal authority. A no would have been understandable. Still, Catherine felt it was important to send the note because they needed to address the public conflict in a private setting where they could speak honestly. The drawing room was small compared to other rooms in Windsor. There was no fire and no formal arrangement of chairs to show rank. Catherine arrived first and stood by the unlit fireplace, choosing not to sit in the chair that was associated with higher status. She wanted their first meeting to be free from the reminders of hierarchy that had caused tension in the previous weeks. When Camilla entered, she closed the door. She saw the empty chair, glanced at Catherine, and didn't say anything at first. Without staff, folders, or courtiers around, the usual royal shields were gone. Whatever happened next depended on their willingness to engage with each other. Catherine spoke first. She shared that the recent confrontation made her feel publicly accused of disloyalty in front of people whose respect she needed to keep as a future queen. Being challenged in front of important guests and officials not only embarrassed her personally, but also raised doubts about her readiness for her role. The real hurt came from the public nature of the accusation, which felt deliberate. Camilla replied honestly, surprising herself. She confessed that fear influenced her actions. Despite working hard for acceptance, she worried it could be taken away at any moment. Changes in the household made her feel less important before Charles became king. Instead of responding to what Catherine was trying to do, she reacted to her fears about Catherine's future. Catherine assured Camilla that she didn't want her marriage position or authority. She just wanted space to prepare for her upcoming duties, no matter what happened. The future was not a competition. It was a responsibility she had to face. Then Camilla took out a state dinner instruction card from her handbag, tore it, and placed the pieces on the small table between them. Catherine didn't immediately forgive her, but she recognized the rivalry had to stop to protect William, Charles, and the institution they both served. Camilla promised to apologize directly, and Catherine promised to discuss any future issues face-to-face before they turned into household policies or instructions. As they finished, Camilla opened the door and let Catherine leave first, not as a sign of defeat, but as a new beginning. What remains after the door closes? 3 days after the Windsor state dinner, Catherine and Camilla attended a royal reception together. No official announcement or media briefing covered their appearance. They arrived and walked in together despite the previous week's events. At the entrance, Camilla paused and waited for Catherine to join her. For a brief moment before the doors opened, neither woman spoke. This short pause mattered to everyone present. The public saw a photo of them entering the event side by side with no space between them. For those who followed the state dinner events, the image sparked questions about whether it showed real reconciliation or a staged performance. The key detail was that Camilla paused, and Catherine accepted the gesture without hesitation. One newspaper titled a story "Windsor Peace." A morning broadcaster called it image management. A royal commentator stated that regardless of what went on privately, the visible effort mattered. The monarchy's reputation relies more on presenting a united front than on whether its members always agree. All these views contain some truth. Following the dinner, specific changes happened. A protocol assistant was permanently moved from ceremonial work. The Lord Chamberlain's office introduced a new requirement. Any major changes to formal instructions needed written approval from both the King's household and William's office before they went to either woman's team. Charles acknowledged a mistake in the ceremonial instructions and confirmed that senior family members remained committed to working together. Camilla added a sentence to the official news release, noting that she should have raised her concerns privately instead of at the dinner table. This sentence was deliberate. Royal communications teams carefully choose each word. One line from the Queen stating that the public setting was not suitable was unusually straightforward for royal standards. William watched the joint appearance on a monitor before Catherine returned. Throughout the week, he felt angry and protective, even as his wife asked him twice not to confront his father about the disagreement. She was right both times, and he recognized it, even when holding back was challenging. Charles felt differently as he watched the two women enter together. A senior aide noted that he realized the reconciliation he had hesitated to facilitate had happened because the two women acted despite his inaction. In the weeks leading up to the dinner, his cautious avoidance had pushed them into a difficult conflict. Their choice to sit together in a small room without their husbands or advisors and discuss things that were not covered by protocol accomplished what he had failed to do. The main lesson from the Windsor state dinner is not just that royal families argue that hierarchies create competition, or that women preparing to succeed one another face unique pressures the system often overlooks. While those statements are true, they are not the key takeaway. The key lesson is simple. Avoiding necessary conversations does not stop conflict. It only delays it. This allows it to build up privately and come out in a very public way later. 2 women, 2 instruction cards, 1 state dinner, and the quiet understanding that followed all came from this principle. Rank does not lessen personal fears. Status does not remove insecurities. Power does not replace honesty. Catherine and Camilla stood together briefly at the reception entrance before the doors opened. Between them were months of unspoken tension, a very public dinner, a torn instruction card on a table, and a private agreement that neither had to make. Yet, they walked in together. If this story raises questions about the future for both women within the monarchy, subscribe now. We cover everything the official statements leave.